Welcome, everyone. I am really excited to have this conversation with Chason today. He is not only someone who desires to see change happen in lives, he's actually fully embodying it. And he's really overcome such an incredible amount of life. He's had adversity, trauma, he's gone through addiction, and he's really accredited his recovery journey to his resilience, his faith, and the community support. And you can see that in everything that he's doing through Transformation Kitchen, which he will go through all of the details for that, as he's got an amazing event coming up if you want to be a part of and support. But again, he is passionate about all the things food, which if you know me, you know I'm a foodie, so this conversation could get really fun. But yeah, so Chasen, where should we start? You are a part of so much change right now, and you're really leading the path forward for potential after hardship and trauma, and maybe even not the like highlight reel of our lives. I think that's a really key pillar in your structure and story is like you're not afraid to share the moments that aren't your proudest.
Well, I wasn't always like that, and I come from a very private family, and I come from an era uh, where people just don't talk about their demons, and you don't share these things. And really, I probably have done more work in the last 5 years than I've done in decades, and it goes in waves. I mean, uh, I think early on I was a wreck and wasn't willing to face my demons and talk about things. And then as I started overcoming different things that were standing in my way, I wasn't doing the full work, meaning that I my addictions were morphing into other things and impacting other parts of my life. So really, honestly, the last 5 years of my life have been about taking off those last remaining masks and really looking deep into the mirror and saying, what is keeping me from doing the things that I want to do? Because we're both in the Outlier Project. I got to hear someone speak early on. It was like 2022, and they were having this guy that used to play professional soccer, and he came on, and it's not like he had this crazy story, but I was fascinated by this core piece that he was really known for, and it was that he had built a life of intention. He was a person of great faith. And he's like, I want to build a life where I control who I'm with, how much I work, what I do, where I go, and be able to spend it with the people I love and taking the time that I want to take. I'm in a real intentional life. And I was just like fascinated by that. At that point, I was still in corporate. I had been building my HR company since since 2012, and um, it was just like I was just starting to build the nonprofit out, and it was all these things that I was just really like, wow, this is that's where I want to be. How do I make sure I'm there? So yeah, we could start anywhere you like, but I wanted to say that first because it really um, I think it's true that you can reinvent yourself as many times as you like, and there's no age that says it's too early or it's too late in your life to create change and to change your direction and to really be intentional about what you want to do and who you want to do it with.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I think it goes back to just how we are so conditioned to believe that we have to be in this burnout state to be successful. And I think we're trying to shift that narrative. And I love how you said he lives a life of intention, because everything that we do, if we have an intention and a purpose behind, it's a lot easier to follow through. It's a lot easier to see the bigger picture. And it sounds like it really kind of motivated you to even think about, like, what are those key pillars that you want to focus on so that you can have that travel time, or like you were sharing with me earlier, your daughter's coming to visit. So I guess what I would like to ask you is, where did the inspiration for Transformation Kitchen start, so that people who don't know you that are in my network can really understand the power behind what you're doing as a movement?
I guess the best way is to give kind of a mini version of my why, and tell people what that's about. So, thank you, Jamie, Susan, Leslie, and others that we don't see. Thank you for joining us today. I will say, hey, King, good to see you. So, I will say this. I grew up in a family that was in church, 4 plus times a week. And on the outside, we looked like we were the perfect family. I'm the oldest of a gaggle of boys. But the problem was, behind the scenes, a lot of other things were going on. My biological mother had physically abused my brother and I. It was really bad, to the point where my father gave up everything, gave up a very lucrative music career, left college, and moved us out of state to escape that, got custody of us. But he married very quickly, remarried very quickly, and ended up with a lady that he trusted, that looked the part, had all the right, said all the right things, did all the right things, and was really psychologically more abusive than physically abusive, but there was both. And so that went on for, till I was 16, and left for college. And then I was like, I'm never coming back, ever. And the thing that happened in the course of that is that, early on, 15, 16, I got tired of all the abuse and the fact that my father was traveling to put food on the table, but I was angry. I was angry at him because he didn't see it. He didn't know it. He didn't realize was what was going on in the house. And it made me it made me a very angry human. And I already had all of this goofy stuff in my life. I had hearing problems. I had a list. I was in speech therapy for years. I got glasses early on. I had this huge long name. Chason is my middle name, and it's after my grandmother's maiden name. And she was this little, 5 foot woman from a little town in Northern Ireland. And I just loved her to pieces. So I used that, but my name's really long. And in those days, everybody would call it out. And because Ronald McDonald was everywhere, my first name is Ronald. So everybody would, Ronald McDonald would be chanting. And it's like I already had enough social anxiety and angst. I didn't need my stepmother putting that on me. And so I started taking drugs. At first, it was to escape and to get away, because she would allow me to do things to, or encourage me to, go out for the drama and go out and play sports and all that. And then once I got involved and really started having joy from it, she would take it back from me. It was like this game, and it really, I was wrecked. So by the time I got to college, even though I had incredible grades, I was already knee deep in and having problems. I'd had a breakdown my senior year of high school, and had mixed the wrong combination of meds and ended up catatonic and having to be taken out, and was in a coma for a couple of weeks, which was really embarrassing, having to come back after that. And I went to 3 different high schools, and we flipped back and forth from a couple of different states. And I ended up just deep into becoming a drug addict, was homeless, got incarcerated. Literally, my third year of college, I was at University of North Texas, and I was physically removed and incarcerated, and it started me down this path. And I had a lot of highs and lows, but the thing that saved me was the thing that didn't make any sense in that
Right.
time in the early 80s. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll was just part of the culinary scene. Burning the candle at 12 ends, working these crazy hours, and going and partying all night, and then coming back the next day and doing it all over again. That was just like a daily routine. It was just that was like your those were your tattoos of doing what the rest of the people were doing. And finally, I got to a place at a very high end restaurant that I was able to make the team, and I failed miserably. Like I was on the team, I was doing really well, everything was going okay. I still was in my addiction, but I was keeping it under wraps. I was, I was, I was had the brave face and the mask on, and was showing up until I didn't. And I woke up one day, and I didn't know where I was. I was in filth. I didn't know who these people were around me. And I kind of got myself together, and I stumbled outside, and it was Sunday afternoon. The problem with that is that I had forgotten and not shown up for Friday night's dinner service, Saturday night's dinner service, and Sunday's brunch. I had missed 3 shifts. I'm a key person at a high end restaurant where you can't afford to do that. So I knew I was going to be canned, and I'm making the walk of shame back in through the back door, where the receipts come in and the dishwasher is, and the guy that had hired me was the sous chef. He had put me through the stage, and I had made the team, and he just shakes his head, doesn't even really look at me, and then points to the back room where the chef has this little bitty office. He's normally in the kitchen, but he has this tiny little office where he does paperwork and stuff, and has a laptop. And at that time, he actually had not a laptop, he had a desktop. He had this massive, crazy thing, because it's middle at that point. It's like the middle 80s. And he tells me to sit down, and he asked me the question, "Do you know why you're here?" And I couldn't answer the question. I'm just trying not to cry. I mean, literally, I'm so upset with myself. I'm so mad. The wheel of shame is going on. It's been in my life for decades at that point of, you're unworthy, because I've been told so many times during that time period that I didn't matter. I was unworthy, that I was stupid, that I should be in prison. And so I sat there just trying to hold the tears back. And the chef, he looks up at me, and he goes, "Do you know why you're here?" And I'm stumbling around with my words and whatnot, and he just goes right into it, because he sees that I'm having trouble, and he goes right into it, and he says, "You're here because 10 years ago, someone paid it forward to me. I'm 10 years clean and sober because someone paid it forward to me. Now I'm going to pay it forward to you, Chason." And in front of me were 3 piles. I'm a big believer in the power of three, not just because Schoolhouse Rock says that three is the magic number, although I love that. But I've seen three show up so many times in my life, and there were 3 piles. And these 3 piles, there was a pile of pamphlets that were for Narcotics Anonymous and other places where I could get help with my addiction. There was a pile of business cards that he had already made the phone calls so that I could get off the street, actually get a shower, have a roof over my head. I would be sharing it with other people, but that I would not be homeless and on the streets. And then the third pile was a little bit of money so that I could make these meetings.
Wow.
And that started me on a path to where I am today. And it's taken me a long time to get to this place. But now I'm at a place at 60 where I can pay it forward to other people. And we do that in the form of Transformation Kitchen. So we opened
Mm.
our first one in Matagalpa, Nicaragua. We're opening up our second one here in the United States. And we're looking at 5 cities and 4 states. But I'm very hopeful, and it looks very promising that we'll open the first United States one here in New York, closer to my home. Even though I don't sound like it, I've lived in 17 states and 42 cities in 60 years, and my southern bride from a little bitty town called Anderson, South Carolina, she has for 26 years softened the edges, so I don't sound like I'm from New York, but New York is home. And so I am honored to be here, and I'm thankful to be able to tell my story. But that's the turning point, that someone saw beyond the mess. They saw the human, and they said, I have the ability to do something about it. So many times in life, we walk by people and we walk around with our head down and our blinders because we're in the thick of it. We're building things. We're trying to do our own stuff. We have our own issues, our own problems, our own season that we're in. And we don't see the things around us. We don't see the people around us and the struggle. And so, my eyes are open and my heart is full, and I do everything I can to make sure that we are creating actionable change. No more band-aids, no more handouts. Let's do hand ups. Let's pull people up to where they are impacted for life, and they're given the opportunity to thrive. We all deserve the opportunity to thrive.
Mm. You said so many powerful things. Like, I don't even need to ask any questions. No. I think it's really empowering to hear because, I too struggled in those same ways as a teenager. And I'm just barely starting to open up about that journey because it's embarrassing. Well, I was never incarcerated or anything. I did go down a not so aligned path to what I am now. And it was escapism. It was all the same things, feeling unworthy, feeling disconnected. And it takes a level of vulnerability and strength to be able to share it in a way that is showing the transformation, just like you did. You're like, yeah, here's where I was. Here's why I do what I do. And there's hope. And it just gives you insight that people like you and I, we can go through some of the like gnarliest things that society looks at and really create beautiful maybe not afterlife, but beautiful afterthoughts of just pure divine, I believe it's divine orchestration, but community, helping people see the potential in themselves. And that's what Transformation Kitchen is doing, is it's giving the opportunity for people to come out of those hardships. And your story moved me just from listening, and I've heard it other times, but like the way that you said it today just really speaks to, I think, where we're at as a society anyway, because how many people that are even listening have those moments in life that they're not proud of or that they've struggled with, and they hide it because society will either condemn you or they will support you. And we're having to slowly come out of that shell to show others a new path forward. And so I just appreciate that you are open enough to share these moments, and B, that you have the courage to take that next step. And then beyond that, not only did you get the help yourself, you just knew in your heart, like, I've been paid it forward now. And so I'm going to go on and I'm going to do these great things. And I'm going to do it really well so that others get that
Yeah.
chance. Um, yeah. So with that being said, can you tell people about Transformation Kitchen and how exactly you guys are helping to support communities? And even I'm excited to talk about the first location
Yeah.
here. So let's dive into
Sure. So, the thing that bothers me when I look out at the landscape of nonprofits and for profits that help people in communities is the fact that it isn't a community, that we cycle people through a program under the guise that we're helping when in actuality we're cycling and creating band-aids, and we're creating more of the same. We're not fixing a problem, we're actually adding to the problem, because then people get used to that cycle and they can't break free from it. So how do you break cycles of poverty, homelessness, food insecurity? You have to be very intentional, and it starts with a community. So where we build transformation kitchens, we're building community. It's not just about teaching culinary skills. It's about having holistic human beings that we get to a place where they thrive. So mentally and physically, are they at a place where they can get off services, that they can become a viable member of society and feel good about themselves, look at themselves in the mirror and get to that place where they're proud of the person staring back at them. It took me decades. It took me decades to get to the place where I could even look at myself. I hated having mirrors around. I covered up if in the bathroom there was a mirror, I would put something over it. I would put a towel over it. Literally, I could not stand to look at myself. I was so ashamed. I was so embarrassed. I was like, how did someone with straight A's and honors, that placed out of everything and had a full scholarship to get into college, got accepted to Michigan, which is not an easy school to get into, especially if you're out of state. How does that person get forcibly removed their third year of college when you're barely even having like a 2.0 grade point average, and you get put in jail? How does that happen? And I think of those things, and I think of the stuff, a lot of terrible things that I did in my life to get the drugs, because I didn't have two pennies to rub against it, and I did some awful things myself and to other people. I broke a lot of trust, and I did some stuff that I am not proud of. So it took me a long time to get to that place. But getting back to your question, I think we want everybody to thrive, but we also want them. It's not just about finding equitable living wage jobs. It's about, are you okay? Because that's the thing that really irks me the most is that organizations will go, man, we just had 100 people this year go through our program. We're pat ourselves on the back. Look at, we're doing great. And you go follow up with those 100 people that went through the program this year. 25 of them are incarcerated again. There's another 25 of them that are either homeless or at poverty level. There's another 25 of them that are working, but they're not making a living wage. It's time that we stop looking at just the metrics, and we look at the human beings, and we create a way and a system that breaks these chains in a community fashion. It's on our t-shirts, and I just love this to death. I thank our merch page, Tisha and Ginger, for coming up with this. But we don't just flip eggs, we flip lives. And that really says it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you're hitting on something that I'm very passionate about, which is mental health and the whole, like looking at the whole human, because behind every single thing that we go, like every time we see somebody that has done something that we consider bad, right? There is a hurting human behind those eyes in some form or capacity. And I'm not saying we just go out and condone behavior by any
Yeah.
means. And we also still have to look at the next layer, like what's causing this behavior and how can we best support them so that the cycle truly does end and break so that they can move forward. Because it, like you said, it's just so, it's hard to hear that somebody as great as you are struggled so much to even look at yourself in the mirror. But that's the reality of when you face those internal hardships that you aren't proud of. It took me years. I am finally, I think now, it's been about 5 years for me too, where I'm finally at that place where I'm like, no, I'm a great human. That's why I do the great humans post, is because like when I see great humans, I want people to recognize it and honor it. But it took me a lot of work to get to that place. And, if as a society, we can really shift our focus on, because I have never understood any of the poverty issues or any of that. I really don't. I struggled as a single parent and all the things, but it's like no human should ever have to go without basic needs. And that is something that I wholeheartedly like, especially if they're wanting difference. And I think most people at the end of the day do. They just might not know how to get there. And that's where programs like this can really empower them to first, I think what I'm hearing you say, it's first see themselves as a human being again, because most of your identity has completely been
Yep.
shaken and shifted away when you've gone through life experiences like that. And then your dignity and your integrity feels off. Like, so it's these layers of helping them remember that they are worthy to be here, because half the time they don't want to be here. Half the time they are so depressed they would rather just not be here because they already feel like they're not worthy to be here. And so I know that you're also about, suitable living wages, and you have other programs that kind of coincide with your nonprofit, which is really beautiful. And a couple of questions that I have. If somebody's like hearing this right now, how are ways that they can get involved and support this organization? And what are those needs that you guys are looking for right now?
It's a great question, and I appreciate you asking it. I will answer that, but I also want to. You said something that I think is really important. One of the first people that we put in place was our director of student wellness, and a lot of you may know her. I know a lot of people, and I can't keep up with all the comments, but I appreciate, and I'll go back and look at them and address it and address everything that people have said. And I thank everybody for being here. I will I will tell you the first person we put in place is Sarah O'Brien, or Sarah O'Brien Fargo, and she's our
Mhm.
director of student wellness. That was the first intent, is to make sure that we have someone that is going to help people work through what they need. And we're building on that so that when we go to different areas, there's someone or people that can give resources that are licensed in that area, wherever the transformation kitchen is, to make sure that people have someone to talk to. No judgment, psychological, safe environment to lay it down just as if you were in NA or AA, because a lot of people will be coming from different trauma. So I want trauma informed people that understand what it means to go through different seasons, because I've gone through them and I know how important it is. Going back to your question, I think it really depends on the human being. There is so much you can do, and people think that the only way that they can help a nonprofit is through finances. That is so far from the truth. There's so much that you could do. It is a literally a matter of, you say, hey, look, I've got 5 hours a month. How can I best serve? If you come with a heart of service and you say, I love your mission, I love your vision, I love your purpose, I love TK, tell me more about it. I want to see how my talents can be plugged in. To me, that is like, I mean, that's music to my ears because there's so much that you could do, there's so much you can do. But even if that is like, okay, that's too much. I really don't. I'm building things on my own. I don't have time for that. I wish I could chase him, but right now I'm in a season that is full, so I don't have the time to do those things. What can I do instead? When you're on social media, you have a different network. Even though you may be in my network, there are people in your network and on different platforms because we're not really great at we're on every platform, but we're not that big over in Facebook. We don't really know what the heck we're doing over in Instagram. And I'm trying to find people that will help us with those platforms. But in the interim time period, hey, take our posts and stuff and talk to people on other platforms or show up to events like this where we're going to be shouting out what we do, or if there's an event that you want to go to that we're doing and you like, come to it, please. And I mean, those things are easy. And again, all you got to do is reach out to me, DM me. I'm probably the most accessible human on the planet. I get so much spam in my inbox, but I don't care. My number and my email and all my links are out there floating around, and so I'm happy to share them with people. So yeah.
Yeah, and tell, okay, so I know you announced this yesterday, so I can officially bring it on here. So I was like, well, I'll see if he's announced it yet. But so you have your annual fundraiser coming up, which is a super fun virtual event. Can you tell us a little bit about it? And then maybe even share the special news about the 90th birthday. I would love for you to
Oh,
just kind of like
okay,
highlight on that.
cool. All right,
So
yeah. Well,
I'm going to give you 4 minutes.
no, well, it's so we have two events that have now are going into their second year. And the first of that is it's our second annual Feed for Good. And what we do is we combine art, food, and music. Art, food, and music to me are the three things that transcend biases and barriers and just make a huge difference. So we get people that are musicians and are artists that are chefs or that are somewhere connected in the culinary world, and we get them to do these presentations. So it's a 2-hour event, and Jen Lynn is going to be our MC. She's going to run the controls behind the scenes, and we're going to I'll be on stage the entire time and introducing people and interacting with the audience. However, it is so. I mean, we've got Rachel Drunka Miller. We've got Phil's going to play and sing. I mean, we've got so many cool people. Mumboni, who's Kenyatta, and her band are going to play. We've got chefs doing presentations. I mean, artists that are doing their rendering. Trevor, I'm so excited for his rendering and his storytelling. And we're making T-shirts. Actually, our merch page took our event from March, where Claudia Marulunda did this incredible picture, and we're gonna put that on the we're digitizing it and putting it on the front of the T-shirt, and then on the back we've got our sponsors. So we've got 7 main sponsors for the event, and I'm so thrilled. We'll be selling the T-shirt. You can get the tickets now. I actually opened it up early, so you can get the tickets, and then it's really not that expensive. I think it's like $25. You get a ticket, and you can have the video. Like you'll have a copy of the recording. So even if you can't make the whole 2 hours, or you can't make any of it, but you want to be part of it, you can buy a ticket, you can donate, you can do both, and you're entertained. And so we'll also have giveaways for people that are there live. We are going to have giveaways of some books that people have been kind enough to give us copies of. And we'll send those out to people, and we'll give away some t-shirts too. So very cool. Uh,
Okay, I love the 90th birthday. This is really cool.
so
Like,
I
I'm
before
excited.
I could chicken out, a chef buddy of mine here locally in Beacon asked me to MC an event that got approved by the Jacques Pepin Foundation. So Jacques Pepin turns 90 this year, and there are 90 dinners all around the United States called 90 for 90 to celebrate the Jacques Pepin Foundation and to highlight this amazing chef and the work that he's done over the past 90 years. So there's an event here locally across the, maybe 20 minutes from me in Beacon, New York, and I'm going to be part of it. And all of the wait staff are going to wear Transformation Kitchen T-shirts. So I'm a little stoked by like the whole thing and how it's playing out. But I said yes before I could chicken out and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But that negative self-talk that I still, we all
Yeah.
still deal with it, and it's recognizing it when it's happening and slowing down to be like, okay, it's got to be all right, and working your way through it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that people just think like you get to this place and you're just all
Yeah,
great and you're like never
no,
self doubt.
it's
But like every time we shift into something new, there's that sense of excitement and unease at the same time, which can, either propel us forward or hinder us from making that step. And so it is, like you said, about noticing it and being able to say, all right, I'm better than
yeah.
this. Um, so, my last question, and I love asking this of every guest, is what's one thing that you hope listeners will either take and implement today, or just something that you want to share for them to hold with them as they walk through this day?
That you're not alone. I mean,
Hmm.
I recently, and I posted about it because I think it's important that we share these things. I got to a place where I didn't even realize that I was getting off the rails until I was like,
Hmm.
wow. My neighbor sent me a text message and said, it's not like you to not park your car. We have to move our car because there's opposite side parking so they can clean the streets each week. If you don't move it, you get a $50 ticket. In the span of the last 2 weeks, I've forgotten to move my car twice and gotten a $50 ticket. So it's $100 I'm just throwing out the window. And my neighbor's like, it's not like you. And as she's texting me, I'm seeing the ticket and I'm running to an event and I'm realizing I need to slow down. That I've been running, I've been doing, 14-hour days. I've been, you know, I'm off where I need to be. And I looked to see if there was a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. There was not. So I'm part of a men's group called Iron Tribe. And I reached out to a guy and I said, do you have 8 minutes? And that's
Hmm.
our code for, hey, I need to talk to somebody.
Hmm.
And he was able to do it. And we got on the phone and just kind of hammered some things out. I needed to slow down and I needed to talk to somebody. And I needed to even understanding. I can see what's happening, but I need to put on the brakes and I need to get a 30,000 foot view and be like, okay, I'm pouring from an empty cup. This stems from like 2 weeks now of me just going, 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 doing all of these things that pull my energy because this is like what I'm doing today, even though it doesn't seem like it to most people because they think, oh, Jason's so vivacious and all this. I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert that's socially awkward. So you put me in a place where I'm around people and I'm out and I'm speaking and I'm doing stuff with the chamber and all this. Man, that's taken a massive amount of energy from me that I have to replenish and I wasn't doing it. And so I got a hard awakening that, oh, hey, you know what? You're running on empty here, bud, and you're missing some. You haven't cut the grass, and you haven't moved your car, and now you've got $100 in tickets, and now you got this going on, and now you got that going on. So it's one of those things that I want to tell people that you matter, and that there are people around you, and if you don't have anybody, you're not someone that wants to dial the 888, or you are at a place where things are kind of hectic, because I've been there in my life where I made some choices that I'm lucky to be sitting here having this conversation with you about. You can contact me,
Mhm.
and I will take your call, and I'm happy to just listen and be a voice, and then direct you to some people that might be able to help you even better. So,
Wow. I mean, you have given us so much hope and inspiration. And, I've often said that everybody that comes on here tears up a little bit in some ways. So, like it's a beautiful part of our human, journey. And I just thank you for your time, because I do know that you're
well,
very busy. And when you said yes, I was like, okay, how can I best support you and the organization and really shine light on what you're doing, and really, again, just double down on the impact of seeing the full person, because you never know what somebody's lived experience has been, or how hard they're fighting to be here just in this everyday moment.
yeah.
And if we can hold more compassion and understanding, we will truly create a different world. And it does always begin with us. I do feel in order for us to do that, we have to understand ourselves, and then we can hold that space. And that takes work, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to look a certain way. It just can just be what it is. So again, thank you so much. If people want to reach out to you, what's the easiest way? I know you said, well, your information's everywhere, so pick
Well,
your.
no, yeah, I have a link tree,
Mhm.
and because I love them, I can put all the links in one thing. So Linktree has got all the links to our podcast, where you can find those now, because now all the audio goes out everywhere. We have the video part on YouTube, and then the audio is in all the places where people listen to their podcasts. But all my links are there as well. So Linktree, and I believe I have that. We'll put it in. I'll put it in the comments in the show. So,
Awesome. Well, and again, if anybody wants to be a part of the event, we'll make sure that event link is in here as well. And if, again, today's story really resonated with you and you'd like to reach out and do further collaboration, Jason is always open and welcome to that support. And I hope,
yeah.
thank you everyone who attended. We will make sure to comment on all the things. Like, I'm a super distracted person. You do not want me trying to answer all that. I would never. So we'll leave it